The Charlestown Coalition is a program of Mass General Hospital's Center for Community Health Improvement. We know that clinical care really only impacts 20% of health outcomes. The other 80% are based on the environment in which you live. It's based on where you work, where you eat, where you pray, where you play, the environmental context of health. And so our job at the Coalition is to really focus on that 80%. We're looking to improve the environment in which our people, our community, our residents live in order to have healthier outcomes. We don't come in as the Coalition and say, this is what Charlestown needs to work on. We ask the community, what is it that is of concern in the community? And then our work is to build capacity of the community to deal with its own health concerns. And so when we think about gun violence, we're really looking at what are the root causes? What are those causes that are driving the violence in the community?
We're on the third floor where our office is. I'm about to go across the street to First Church. That's where we do our youth programming every Thursday. Going to set up for the meeting and kind of get things prepared for today. So we have kids in this room ages 14 to 18, right? Freshmen in high school, some 8th graders, up to seniors in high school. Let me ask you a question. How many of you in this room, yourselves personally, family members, or someone you know, have been affected by gun violence? Wow. Thank you. You know, 95% of you live in this community. And to me, it says something about a community of young people that has this shared trauma around gun violence and around being or feeling safe in your own community or sometimes in your own homes. What other ways do you guys see young people in a community being affected by gun violence?
There was 2 different incidents where I have this family member, he's my cousin. The first time he was taking me home and like a gun was pulled out at him at the State Street train station. And he was just trying to go home after making sure I get home safe. And then a time after that, he was bringing me home again, but we were already here in Seatown. And then we found out that there was a shooting on the way coming to my house. So he was like, either we're going a longer way or you're coming back with me. And it's like, I can't even go home by myself because of things like this. And it's like, I can't really just go out and do what I want to do. I have to make sure somebody is with me.
I just have to say that if you're a kid or a teenager and you hear a gunshot and you're not afraid, that's not good. That's a bad environment and that can cause serious damage to someone. I used to have a friend and my mom, she's been around so much violence her entire life, and she could be around someone, she can hear a gunshot and she won't be scared for herself, but she'll be scared for her kids.
I appreciate all of you for everything you guys bring every time we meet. And just so you guys know, anytime you're going through something, anytime you're struggling with things, you can come see me, Sarah, Fenice, Sierra. That's what the staff's here for. Sarah and Fenice are clinical licensed social workers, right? They're trained in kind of how to deal with these emotions and feelings. We're always at your disposal.
I think of anger as when you see a wrong or an injustice and you care. Both of those, being able to distinguish right from wrong and caring, I think are very good things. And anger does not have to be a problem. It can be a highly motivating force. But if you add hopeless or helpless, it can turn into rage. So I like to be somebody who brings in some hope and can do some help. to keep the anger in a forward-moving, healing the planet. I'm the kind of psychiatrist that cares deeply about healing and healthcare. I'm a little less into disease management. I'm very into trauma healing. I see trauma as an overwhelmed nervous system. And an overwhelmed nervous system happens to us all. And it doesn't have to be a capital T trauma. It doesn't have to be a car accident or an earthquake. And when we're overwhelmed, we deserve a chance to recover before we go to the next overwhelm. And I feel privileged to be brought into the lives of people who are willing to let me teach them that stuff. And it's a beautiful opportunity. I'm going to teach you the difference between emotions, anxious, frustrated, sad, angry, depressed, and sensations, which are like nauseous, tight jaw, heart rate goes up. You got it, right? Sensations are happening at a very, very different level. And this is amazing. Research shows that the sensation happens first. The first thing that happens is something's gurgling or boiling up inside you, and then comes an emotion, and after that comes your thoughts about it. And we're going to see if we can do some work on just the sensations, because guess what? That's where trauma is healed. And that's a big deal.
My name is Eric Anderson, and I was born and raised in and out the area of Boston, Massachusetts. When I was 4, my father got locked up. For me, a young boy that really looked up to his father, and a young boy that really didn't know where his father went. For me, I didn't get that sad story of he went to college or he went away or he went to visit somebody. It was just mute, you know. For me, for my mom, it was a moment for her to get away, you know, from a relationship, so she kept it that way. So for my young mind, you know, I went searching for my father. And the individual that came into my life afterwards wasn't my father, and that's something I stood hard on. It left me with a void, you know. Trauma for me really started in my household, you know, even from my father leaving, from all the ass whoopings, the beatings, from even being put in DSS, living with my grandmother, going through the same thing with her and my aunt, ass whoopings and beatings, having to be the oldest one to take care of my little brothers and sisters. You know, for me, I'm one of 6, so my household was very big. With a mom that worked on and off, a stepfather that kept a job, but, you know, really kept to himself. So for me, my older brother, the streets came really early and really fast and really easy. You know, my mom couldn't watch us. When we left DSS and we went back to my mom when I was 9, she had a 6th kid. She couldn't watch us. She had I think might have been 3 with severe cerebral palsy. She couldn't watch us older 2. So the streets became our home, and that's all we knew. We ventured in the streets, panhandled just to go skating and shave roofs. We stole just to eat. You know, we made Blue Hill Avenue our playground in order to be able to survive. And when I turned 14, I lost my younger brother. That was it for me. I left the house and just stayed out in the streets.
Can you tell me about your earliest experience with gun violence?
For me, it was getting robbed out in front of my house. You know, I lived out down in the South End, away from Dorchester, where I called my neighborhood. So for me, it was like a more of a safe haven. So really just being down there, feeling, I guess, a little safe with my jewelry, getting robbed. Then, you know, for me, eventually, I know for me getting robbed, at that point, I pick up a gun. So very short after, I'll get my first stint in South Bay at 17 for my first pistol charge. So for me, it was an awakening. But also, then it was a moment of, this shit ain't that hard. You know, it's gladiator school, you gotta fight, but it ain't that hard. So coming home after a year was back to the streets, back to the grind, back to the hammer. But now I definitely gotta carry it. Now I can't live without it. Now I made a name for myself, or a name in the streets, so now I'm definitely stuck. In 2005, losing my friend, one of my best friends, to gun violence. Knowing he lost his life to something that he didn't start, that he didn't do, though we may have been in the streets, it hit me hard. You know, after coming home from South Bay, at this point I already got a hammer on me every day. It became easy. Growing up in a household where when someone did you wrong, or whenever you did something bad, capital punishment was that answer, it became easy. I was beyond desensitized at that point. So when he losing his life, when my friend losing his life, came my moment in the streets to step up, I guess, pro se, get my name. And already having a gun on my hip every day, it became easy, you know, to pull that trigger. Reflecting on that chapter makes me think of what I was following, what principles I hold. You know, that G code? Because for me, that's what I live by. You know, my man lost his life, I had to answer that. It wasn't per se what I wanted to do, but it was something I had to do for my neighborhood. You know, same as selling drugs. Someone try to rob you, gotta get yours back. You know, it was a code I lived by. And now when I reflect on it, I know it's stupid. Everything in my life around me was the streets. You know, everyone I met, I sold drugs to, I met in the county. Everyone I now hung out with or I seen or I able to grab my hands from, I met in the county. You know, growing up in those institutions, DYS, I grew up deep in the streets. So I tell my young self, get rid of that code. That code wasn't there for you. That G code, you don't even know who wrote it. Don't snitch, get revenge, get yours, get two back. You know, get your money up. Do this, do that. Don't follow that code. Understand, one, that you value and truly value yourself. Understand, second, that anything you want in this world, you truly can achieve. You just gotta put the work in for it. That you ain't trapped here, that this world's bigger than the city that we live in, bigger than the neighborhood that we represent, that we can grow, that we can do anything we really set our mind to.
I'm Jim Morrill. I'm a primary care physician, and I treat addiction and overall primary care. I work at MGH on the addiction consult team. I work here at the MGH Charlestown Health Center. And I think the things I care, most about are trying to be as true as possible to, the ideals of primary care and community health center, and trying to make that as honest as possible. Because our credentials, whatever they are, nurses, doctors, anyone in the medical system, they don't give us experience. The experience that matters for understanding what's going on in a community and what's going on with any generation, but definitely with kids, any of the mysteries of a community, that requires getting outside the medical system. And that requires being humble. And that requires getting, out of your seat and out of your desk, away from your computer, and to let the community lead you and tell you, the answer. And then what you bring is, your medicine and the therapies and treatments and theories that might help in one angle, but you have no idea how to deploy those and put those into practice until you get out and talk to people and talk to the community.
Right now, what we're doing today is we are doing an art project as part of a gun violence prevention grant in accordance with Mass General Hospital. This is the second part. The first part is in concert with Dr. Linda Forsyth. Her takes on gun violence prevention are to me out of the box, groundbreaking, genius. It's more about getting the young people in tune with their body, understanding when they're feeling stressed, understanding when they're feeling these certain type of emotions, and teaching them how to listen to their body and then therefore control the emotions so we can stop having more reactionary things happen and they can think before they act. So today, Linda's gonna lead us in an exercise and an art project where we create what's called shibori. It's an ancient Japanese art form of using indigo dye and wax and tie-dye and using cloth. And our plans are to hang this in what we have dubbed our Peace Park, and it'll be hanging high in trees. It's going to be blowing in the wind. The goal is to create a peaceful piece of art, but also for them to feel a part of it. We're going to talk some more about some of the body work that we've been doing, but it's all going to be incorporated into the final project and the process.
What's so important to me about what I'm contributing to these young minds at this point is that if they can understand that they can be still and safe at times when they might otherwise be activated and perceive the lack of safety, then they can continue to think with their brains and keep themselves safe. So knowing the difference between an activated brain and a quiet brain, knowing the difference between times when they start to feel unsafe, we'll work on that a little bit later down in the program, and them seeing what kinds of things make them feel safe, understanding the evolutionary roots of anxiety that we talked about a little bit today, can actually prevent danger in their lives in important ways, and might even be able to prevent some gun violence if we get everything right. So the opportunities for this to make a difference are enormous, and I just, spread the planet. It's my belief that all violence is rooted in trauma, and if we can heal some of the trauma by some of this, we're doing it. All right, I'm going to come around with actual die. Who's ready for die? Are you guys done? Yeah. If you're done with your candle, then another table would probably like it. You guys done with the candle too? Okay. Are you guys done with the candle, or are you still working on it?
I want to use the wax.
My name is Bobby Iacovello. I'm from Revere, right outside of Boston. I got really strong ties to Chelsea, East Boston, and Revere. Grew up there my whole life. I did grow up there my whole life, but I also grew up in prison as well, and in the system. I think I was pretty much born into the system, and I say that because right from birth, there was a custody battle over where I would live. I got my first arrest in the 7th grade. I was charged with armed robbery, and due to that, because of my charge, due to zero tolerance in school, I was kicked out of school, and I was trapped in the system ever since then. Since the 7th grade till October 22nd of 2019, which is a little bit over 2 years ago, I never left the court system. I remember the first time I seen a gun. I don't remember the exact age I was. It was before I was a teenager. I remember my friend pulled it out and was showing me. I'll never forget it. And then I remember the first time somebody pulled a gun out on me. I remember it was a sawed-off shotgun, and he pulled it on a bunch of us. And that's when I kind of knew that knives and bats weren't a match for a gun. So I had to start carrying one or keeping one close to me. So it's very difficult to carry a gun in my neighborhood because I got searched at least twice a day. So you had to put it somewhere in the vicinity or around your area. I was scared, straight up. I was scared. I would never would have admitted that back in the day, but I had a mask on and I was scared. So I had a gun or weapons to protect myself. I didn't want to die. Or even more importantly, at that time to me, I didn't want my boys to die.
I think sometimes some of these really complex social issues, like gun violence, feel totally overwhelming to the everyday person in the community. We're really looking at addressing healthcare outside the walls of the hospital. How can we all make sure that the Charlestown community is a healthier place to live, it's a healthier place to be? And that in and of itself will affect health outcomes. When people are less stressed, when they're feeling more belonging, when they're feeling safe, when they're feeling connected. As we've learned during COVID, that any one of our health affects all of our health. To improve the health of a community, it's really addressing equity. It's really addressing how are we ensuring that all kids have an opportunity to feel seen, to feel valued, to feel heard, to feel a sense of belonging in communities, that all families have an opportunity to be able to focus on outside of survival mode, that they don't need to constantly be focused on how am I getting my basic needs met. And in order to do that, we all need to work collectively together to ensure that basic needs are met for children and families, and that everybody has an opportunity to feel a sense of belonging and community.